Welcome to the Fit Dad Nation podcast, forging strong fathers and raising a stronger generation. It's time to get up or shut up with your host, Steve Roy.
Hey guys, this is Steve Roy, host of the Fit Dad Nation podcast. Welcome to the show. Thank you for listening. So before I jump into today's show, I want to take a quick moment. I'm going to invite all of you dads who are listening right now. If you're ready and you're ready to take action on reclaiming your health and fitness and becoming the best father, best husband, the best employee, the best business owner that you can be, you have to be at your best. That's physically, that's mentally, that's emotionally. The community that we have at the Fit Dad Nation works on all of those things, and we have a free online community called the Fit Dad Basecamp. It's a private Facebook group. You can apply to join at fitdadnation.com/community. This show that I'm doing now stemmed from an email that I got not too long ago from a dad in our community. And it's something that I have a tremendous passion for, and it's something that affects millions and millions of men. And so to sum up this email, this fellow said, I want to have passion for what I do. I want to care. I'm disconnected to the work I do now, which leaves me unfulfilled. So he went on to talk about some of his passions and had some questions about potentially starting a side hustle. And this is something that I've have quite a bit of experience with, and something that it's really important to me because, for those of you that don't know, I left a career in finance years ago to pursue this full time. So back in, I'm going to take you back into 2001. I'm living in Denver, Colorado. I'm working at the Hard Rock Cafe as a waiter, and I turned 30. And I kind of have an epiphany like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm 30 years old, and I'm still a waiter. And I had been a waiter for 13 years at that point, off and on. In restaurant business, I kind of did it all. Nothing wrong with it. I just decided that, I'm 30. I don't want to be a waiter for the rest of my life. I need a real career. I didn't have any ideas, though, of what I really wanted to do. I was living by myself out in Colorado. And so I thought about it a little bit, and I decided that the place for me was the wonderful world of finance. I knew nothing about finance, didn't have a degree in finance, didn't know shit about the stock market, but it sounded sexy to me, sounded fun and intriguing and challenging. So I started making a couple of phone calls, and through seriously a crazy twist of events, a friend of a friend of a friend's fiance introduced me to a guy who was living out in Virginia. I talked to him. I ended up moving back to Maryland from Colorado and interviewed with a couple of people. And one of the people I interviewed with was a guy who was working at a bank brokerage, and he was the fiance of a friend of a friend. So anyway, he gave the opportunity to me to kind of tell him what I wanted to do and how I could, make a dent in the business and help him grow his business. Anyway, it was a mess because I showed up and I didn't know anything about that world, nothing. So I showed up literally in a double-breasted olive green suit that was probably at least one size too small. I didn't have any need for suits back then, none. So I didn't quite get it. So anyway, he was a good guy, and he said, "Listen, I'm going to set you up with a couple of other friends, a couple of guys I know at Merrill Lynch, it was Smith Barney. Go interview with them, see what they have to say, and then we'll talk again." So I did. I went out. Oh, yes, I have no experience. Great. Oh, okay. And basically, I didn't get hired anywhere. So called this guy again. We got together, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to give you a shot. So he pays me a salary, and my job was basically to call leads at the bank and set appointments for him to, build his business. We ended up becoming close friends over the years, and I ended up moving a couple times. I got married in that time, and I switched to 4 different brokerage firms, but I stayed in the industry for 11 and a half years. And when I say this, I'm not kidding. within the first I'll say a year, the first year of those 11, I knew this was not the business for me. It was not a good fit. I didn't enjoy it. I always felt out of place. I felt like a fraud because I didn't have a degree like all these other Ivy League guys that were there making all this money and wearing nice suits. And I just never felt like I fit in, and I didn't like the work. I didn't like calling people that didn't want to be called. I didn't like trying to sell shit that they didn't really need. But I started getting certified with all my licenses, Series 7, Series 66, all those things, my insurance licenses. And all these certifications started accruing, and I was like, well, shit, I'm getting more money. And, then I got married and we had a daughter right away. And so I kind of felt stuck because I was doing pretty well on paper, but at the end of the day, I was miserable. And so this all started in 2002. By 2010, I was married, had 2 daughters now. And I was miserable. I was at a smaller brokerage firm, and it was just 2 of us, my boss and I, and we didn't really get along. And my job was financial planning, just going through software every day, logging numbers, no really contact with clients at all. And it was miserable. I had this office. It was I think it was an actual closet. It had no windows or anything, but so it was obviously dark and gloomy and shitty. And I worked there for 5 years. And I can't complain because, I had decent benefits. I had a pretty decent paycheck. And there was some room for growth. But again, I was very, very unhappy. My home life was starting to fall apart, and I was really unhappy at work. So I decided that I was going to start an online business and work my way out of my 9-to-5 job. That was my goal. And first of all, I'm sharing all of this with you because there are millions and millions of men. I've talked to, I don't know how many that were in the same position I was for many years, where you feel stuck and trapped, and probably you're making too much money, you have nice benefits, and it's scary as hell to walk away or want to walk away from, we'll call it, quote unquote, comfort or safety. And I have some other thoughts on that I'll share with you shortly. But so 2010 rolls around. I am miserable, just down. I was actually still doing some fitness stuff on the side, teaching some boot camps, but my heart, I guess, wasn't in it because I had to sit at this desk all day long, and then things were pretty tough at home. So I said, I'm going to make shit happen for myself. And so I went to Barnes & Noble and bought a book called WordPress for Dummies. WordPress is a platform for creating websites. So it's pretty simple. I didn't know anything about writing. I didn't know anything about internet marketing. I didn't know anything about content creation or SEO, any of that stuff. But I learned. So I spent a couple of months reading this book, learning even how to code a little bit, HTML. And so I bought a domain, and I bought a theme, which is kind of like a template for the website. And I just started working. I didn't hire anybody. I just went to work on my own. And this happened sometimes at work and oftentimes at night after the kids went to bed. And so I would just work and learn, and I started writing. And this website, it's actually still live. I haven't written for it in a while, but it started 9 years ago in October. So October of 2010 was when it officially launched, called endingthegrind.com. So that was my goal, was to end the grind for myself, right? I didn't necessarily know what was going to happen. I didn't know anything. I had no idea if this was going to be a massive failure, if anybody would give a shit about reading what I had to say. I just had no clue. I didn't know anything about that world. So as I started learning more and more about it, I started connecting with other bloggers, other people that were doing kind of lifestyle type bloggers. It was really popular back then. Now it's a little bit different, but back then everybody was trying to live this laptop lifestyle on a beach, which was the dream. And so I started writing posts, just my articles. And the first few, if you go back way to the beginning, they're horrible. I was not a good writer. And what I started doing was just using the frustration and anger from my life and the feeling of hopelessness and sadness that I had. And I started just pouring out everything into my writing. Like I just let it all out. I didn't try to hide behind anything. I made it clear who I was, that I was married unhappily, that I hated my job, and people were like, "You're crazy. Why would you put that out there? You're going to get fired," and blah, blah. And I said, I have to share this. And so within just a few months, I think it was 4 months, I had like 20,000 visitors a month coming to this website reading my stuff, because I was just so raw and open and honest with my life that people were like, holy shit, this guy is living this nightmare, and so am I. Like, holy shit, this is crazy. And it just took a life of its own. And I started writing like crazy. I mean, I was writing all the time. I would spend probably 20 to 30 hours a week writing and on the website, including my full-time job that I had and the boot camp classes that I was teaching either before or after work. So I was spending a lot of time doing this, but I knew that I had no other option, right? I have 2 small children. I had a wife at the time. I have a career. There's no other time. I have to get shit done. So I went to town on it, and I loved it. I fell in love with writing. I fell in love with connecting with other people. I had comments. I mean, that website alone had 5,000 comments at least over the course of the, I guess, 4.5 years that I was really consistent with it. So it's crazy. It really resonated with a lot of people. I started the podcast. It was really low budget. I didn't have an editor. I did everything myself, through WordPress plugins. I figured it all out. It wasn't high quality, but I ended up connecting with some pretty remarkable people. Like Seth Godin was one of my guests, who he actually responded to my email in error, thinking it was somebody else, saying, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then once he realized his error, he said, oh shit, well, I already said yes, so let's go. I was actually at work when this happened. And luckily my boss was out of the office, and he said, well, I can do it in 20 minutes. So I closed my door, hooked up my microphone, interviewed Seth Godin for 10 minutes. And so I did like 20 some odd shows with some pretty high profile people, some awesome people. And it was great. It was great. So anyway, the reason that I'm sharing all this with you and kind of my backstory is because I was in a position that so many of you guys are in right now, yet you're not doing anything about it. And that to me bothers me more than most things, to hear that. Like when I see someone that's clearly miserable with their life, clearly miserable at their job, and is just basically grinding out their life, it breaks my heart. I mean, I hate to see that, because I lived it for so long and I felt like my life was being taken from me. So of course, I was responsible for all of those things, right? I chose to go into finance. I chose the jobs I had. I chose all that stuff. So it's all on me, and I understand that. But I had created a position for myself where I was extremely unhappy, felt completely trapped, and my only way out, in my opinion, at that time was to become this online entrepreneur and make enough money to be able to quit my job and live with passion and purpose. So, that didn't happen, right? So I wrote, I connected with thousands of people. I reached hundreds of thousands of people with my writing, and I made exactly $0 because I didn't know how to fucking make a business. I didn't know anything about the business part of it. All I knew was how to connect. And I had an interview with somebody. Her name was Penelope Trunk. She's the author of Brazen Careers. She's I guess pretty well known in the online world. Anyway, she's kind of a quirky woman, and she went to town on me. So I interviewed her. She ended up just turning the tables on me. I didn't know what was going on, but she blew me the fuck up. And it was like the best thing that happened to me, because I called a friend of mine after I got off the phone. I'm like, holy shit, dude. This was like midnight. I'm like, dude, Penelope just fucking tore into me like nobody's business and just berated me like crazy and beat me up. And, I don't know what to do. He's like, publish it, man. You have to publish that shit. Don't edit it. Put it out there for the world to hear it, because this is what people are, going through. So I did. And that one interview it had to be at least 100,000 people over the course of time to my site because it went viral back then. I don't remember what year this was. But people needed to hear this shit. And so I had like 300 or 400 comments alone just on that. And it was wild. And I just realized, you know what? I don't have a fucking clue what I'm doing as far as business. She's like, her point was, why do you have all this stuff going on and you don't know anything about the business piece of it? There's no business there. And so I had to do some research, and I have to do some digging, and I had to figure out, okay, well, what do I want to do? And for a lot of you, if you're in a job and you don't like it, it's not fulfilling, it's, and there's a difference between hating your job and being miserable and just getting by, right? If you're really, really miserable, it's very unfulfilling, and it's not work you want to be doing, and there's something else that you would much rather be doing that's important to you personally, you owe it to yourself and your family to at least explore that. And so I didn't know what that was for me at the time. All I knew was, hey, I love connecting with people and I love writing. So I started writing for other people. I was making decent money on the side, but then realized, I didn't like writing about random things that people would say, all right, I'm going to give you $150 to write about, this product or about this. And I was like, well, all right. And it was boring. And so that didn't last very long. And then I tried affiliate marketing, and I tried joint ventures with other people. And I didn't really find anything that really connected with what I wanted to do. And so I ended up just doing a massive amount of work on myself. Went to the library. I worked right by a library. So I was there all the time reading books like, What Color is My Parachute? Like all those types of books that ask questions. What are you good at? What do you like doing? What fulfills you? What's your personality type? All those things. I did all that stuff, and I spent months before I came to the conclusion that I wanted to use my absolute need for helping other people and being in the service of other people with my experience in the fitness business, which I had been, in the fitness business for quite a while already at that point. So, but it took a long time. And why I want to tell you this is because some of you may think, okay, I'm really passionate about, we'll use the health of fitness because a lot of people are passionate about health and fitness. I work in tech. I've been there for 15 years. I'm making 120 grand. I have good benefits. But I hate it. But I really, really want to help somebody in the health and wellness space. But I don't know what to do. So, back to the question that I first had from this email, from this dad in the community, and I've had many, many conversations with other men about this too, is first of all, if you know what you're passionate about, that's phenomenal. So if you truly know what fires you up, what gets your heart going, what you would do for free if you could, that's huge. But a lot of people don't know what that is because they're too busy working and living their life. And so you never really think about, well, if I could do anything, man, I'd love to be a chiropractor. I'd love to be a massage therapist or whatever it is. So if you don't know what that is, I would tell you first off, figure it out quickly because your time is passing quickly. You're going to forget about this podcast, and maybe you get excited about you listen to this, you get excited, you start doing some research about finding your passion, finding your purpose. Then life gets in the way, you forget about the podcast, move on, and then you don't remember this conversation for another year. So that time has passed. Now you have to start over again. So that's what I don't want for anybody. If you're listening to this and you're stuck and you're miserable and you want a way out, I'm not saying that there's a solution necessarily. I'm definitely not saying go just quit your day job and go for broke. That doesn't work for 99% of the people. What I am saying is you owe it to yourself and your family and your happiness. And that's at the top of the level of success for me, is being happy. And I believe that it's far more important than the dollar amount you're getting on your paycheck. Figure it out. Go to the library, go to the bookstore, start asking yourself questions, start asking your friends, hey, what am I good at? So, passion isn't enough. If you're passionate about, let's say pets, right? You want to be a veterinarian tech. You have to have not just passion, but you have to have some kind of skill with what you do. And this was a really important point that I figured out the hard way. You know, I spent a lot of time trying to do things that weren't really in line with my skill set. And I read this book called So Good They Can't Ignore You. It's by Cal Newport. I read that a few years ago. And, you know, I just realized that, you know, it makes so much more sense and it's so much easier to get to where you want to go if you play into your strengths, right? Not, you know, so I'm naturally, you know, fit and athletic and, you know, I'm pretty good at what I do because I've been doing it for a long time and I love it. So that's an obvious choice, right? If I wanted to go become a motivational speaker, for example, and I just really wanted to do that, that would be probably the wrong place for me to start because I don't enjoy public speaking at all. Same as if I wanted to go, you know, play guitar. I mean, I would love nothing more than to get up on stage in front of a huge stadium with Slayer and just jam the hell out on guitar. I would love it, but I don't know how to play any instruments. I have zero musical abilities, and so I'd be starting from scratch. You know, can it happen? Of course, it can happen for anybody. But does it make more sense to play to my strengths, something that I'm good at, something that I already know pretty well and I'm better at than most? Yeah, of course. Especially when you're trying to get out of your job, you know, and reinvent your life. You know, that just makes the best sense. So for you, figure those things out. What are you good at? What are you naturally good at? If you don't know, ask those that love you, those that are closest to you. Hey, you know, what do you think, you know, are my strengths? And you're going to get some interesting answers. So that's the first place to start. Okay. And just realize that, you know, for those of you that are stuck, you know, feeling stuck, and I actually don't like to say you're stuck because in my opinion, you're never actually stuck. You feel stuck, you feel trapped, but you're not, right? You know, you really may feel like there's no way out, but there always is. I honestly believe that. You know, if you don't believe me, just Google something by Gary Vaynerchuk. You know, he has countless videos on this stuff, and he's so passionate about helping people, you know, do what I'm talking about right now. So he's a great resource. And so, you know, you have to want this badly enough. If you're working in a job and you're, you know, not miserable, like so miserable that you have to quit, but you're miserable enough to keep it going, that's the worst place to be because you're just going to get trapped right there in purgatory, right? It's like you're unhappy, you're you know, going through each day like, shit, man, I just wish there was something else I could be doing. You know, this is sucking the life out of me. I don't know, you know, I hate Monday mornings. I can't wait for Friday. I can't wait for the weekends. You know, that's a shitty way to live. But if you're having those conversations and you're not saying, what the fuck, I have to get the fuck out of here before I have a heart attack because I hate this fucking place, you're going to have a tough time making that transition because, you know, in my experience, you need that burning passion to get the fuck out for you to actually take massive action. Like I said, I took massive action and I started from scratch with the online thing. And it took a massive amount of time. Like it took a long time to get where I was actually writing really what I thought was good content, which, you know, that whole experience writing for that website allowed me to launch the Fit Dad Nation because I had a lot more experience in online business and building a community and social media, and even in the podcast. And so that was a huge thing for me. I mean, think about, you know, 4, 5, 6 years, because I didn't launch the Fit Dad Nation until 2014. So it was 4 years of struggling, hard work, learning, setbacks, failures, you know, a lot of negativity, people saying, you know, it's never going to work. Just go back to your job. You know, you should never quit. You have such a great job. All that stuff. Parents telling me you're crazy. So you're going to deal with all that shit, but this is your life. This is your life. So, you know, if you're listening to this and you're resonating with what I'm saying, it sounds like, oh man, that guy's life sounds a lot like, you know, mine. You can do it. I promise that you can do it, but you have to figure out, you know, what you're good at, what you love, and then you seriously have to just get the fuck after it. And I don't care what it is. It could be anything in the world. Gary Vaynerchuk says this a lot too, is you could be passionate about anything. Beanie Babies. I mean, it doesn't matter. There's a way to make a living at it. And I honestly believe that. You know, once you have that sink or swim mentality, then you're going to light that fire under your ass. Then you're going to stay up late at night to 2 o'clock in the morning, doing the research, putting in the work, Okay. But if not, yeah, you may just sit on your comfy chair, making your 6 figures, taking those benefits in, and nothing's going to change, and I'm not saying you have to, but I'm saying you can. So I made the choice to not live the rest of my life for somebody else, right? Giving my time, my energy, building someone else's business, right? I wanted to live on my terms, okay? I was a martyr. I sacrificed my personal happiness for a very long time, and just to keep the status quo going, to maintain that level of I'll say, we'll call it false happiness. I could actually talk about this for days, but it just came down to the point where you have to just question, is my happiness worth this? When I haven't even touched on the fact of how unhappiness and misery and stress leads to health problems, right? I was a fucking mess health-wise at that time. I mean, I was coaching, but I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do for myself. My diet was horrible. I've talked about this before. It was, peanut butter bagels, Red Bull, Pop-Tarts, Snickers bars, Dr. Peppers, many of them a day. Just, actually just kind of treating my unhappiness with food, self-medicating with sugar was one of my big things. And so, I've shared the story how I turned my life around, after my separation. And I just made a complete lifestyle change, and things improved dramatically. So, entrepreneurship in any case, whether it's online, offline, whatever, working for yourself sounds amazing. And, I've been doing it full time for 5 years, and it is amazing. However, this is, other than going through my divorce in a custody battle, this has got to be the hardest thing I've ever done, because it's a constant. And I'm not talking about once in a while. This is a daily grind to figure out how to make a living. I know plenty of fitness coaches that are making massive amounts of money, and my path has been a little bit different. I've taken a few detours along the way, had some big setbacks. I've spent a ton of money on coaches and copywriters and marketing people, ad guys. And so, it's a struggle, and I don't ever complain about it, because I chose it and I love it. I do. I love it, but it is, at the end of the day, it is stressful not knowing that you have, I don't have a paycheck coming in from my employer, right? It has to come from me, everything. So every dime that I make comes directly from me, and I have a number of ways that I get paid, but I still have to manage those every single day. So, entrepreneurship is not for everybody, and honestly, sometimes I wonder if it's even for me, because, there have been many, many times where I've been on the brink of financial ruin. There have been times where I question, am I good enough to do this? Do people care enough about this, this mission, my mission? Can I make this work? And those doubts play over and over and over, and it's tough. I mean, it is a very emotionally tough. My sleep has suffered, many, many times because of different stresses that I've had related to trying to build this and keep it going, and wondering if it's going to work. And so, just keep that in mind. But, I really wanted to share this with you. This is some of my personal stuff, and I don't share this personal stuff very often, but I thought it was an important show, because happiness, it starts with happiness. So I don't care if you eat a perfectly clean diet and you're training 5 days a week and you have 6% body fat and you look awesome. If you're fucking miserable, who gives a shit, right? I mean, who gives a shit? To me, that makes no sense, right? So you take care of yourself. You're making money, but deep down, you're broken. You don't want to do what you're doing, but you feel compelled to. You feel stuck doing it, right? That's not success to me. That's not health and happiness. Those things are tied together. So when you start becoming happier, when you start being fulfilled, your life will change. And that's a rare thing. And not enough people, very few people in my experience, have a sense of fulfillment, about what they do. Like for me, I mean, seriously, I get to help other dads live happier, healthier lives. I mean, that's huge. And so, yes, I'm extremely fulfilled by doing it. Are there struggles? Do I get pissed off? Are there people I don't like? Is there annoying online trolls? All that shit, right? People hacking my Instagram account, failed payments, having to you become a bill collector, chasing people down. Like, all those things are part of it, and there's a lot of frustrations I have. But, man, at the end of the day, seriously, I'm getting emails, getting messages, talking to clients, people that say, Steve, because of you, because of this, because of what you said here, because of what you wrote here, it's changed my life. It's changed the direction of my life. It's changed my fitness. It's changed my relationship with my kids. My sex life has gotten better with my wife, or my relationship has gotten better with my wife, right? All those things are profoundly important to me. And so for me, that's a success, right? I'm not looking at the dollar amount that I have. I'm looking at how many people I can touch, how many people I can help, because I get my satisfaction from that. And so for you, it's on you to find what does that for you. And seriously, I said this already twice, at least, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, your kids, to be the happiest you can be. And I promise everything else will start getting better once you start working towards that. If you have any questions, seriously, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, my struggles, some of the things that I've learned along the way of, it's been 9 years of this, shoot me an email. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. It's steve@fitdeadnation.com. And I do appreciate you listening to this, and I hope it's helped in some way. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, if you want more information, check out the Fit Dad Basecamp group on Facebook. And don't forget to stop by fitdadnation.com. Until next time, keep kicking ass and taking the next step. You can do this, Dad.